You mean just audio?
No, the video.
No, I don't mind video. I don't mind video at all.
Okay, maybe you can be off right now. While you're speaking, you can turn it on.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
I'll do that.
Okay. So
Let's
we'll
check.
start by 8 o'clock. We'll wait for other speakers to join.
Sure. Sure. I'll do
Have
that.
you got the schedule?
Yes, I have. I have got this.
Okay. Great.
I think I'm in the second half of it. So
True. Yeah. Hope it's fine for you, right?
No problem. No problem.
Okay, great.
Hello.
Hello, Vidya. Hello, Rahul sir. Hello, Joseph sir. Good evening. Welcome.
Good evening. Good evening.
Namaskar.
How are you, Professor Nallur? Good.
Namaste.
Monica is also here. Good. Oh, we are not streaming live on YouTube. Excellent. Okay,
Oh, that's happening as well, is it?
Yeah, Dr. Tilak has also just joined us. Professor Vidya Deshpande is also here. Great.
Disconnect those headphones.
I can't see my own photo. Okay, yes.
Okay. Just you.
How to
There is
get this
Ashwin
background
Krishna.
photo? I have this photo, but
Are you all audible?
Yes, no problems.
No problem.
Yeah.
Hello.
Okay, everyone have come in, no? Okay, I'll open it only at 8 to the public.
Yeah.
Let me connect it to.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Audible.
It's live now.
Headphones.
hello everyone. Am I audible?
Shajan sir, what about that speaker from Kasargod?
Okay, एक minute. Okay, sees. Rahul, yeah, it's live now. It's live now. It's
Nitin, can you
live.
hear me? Am I audible?
Yeah. तिलक थोड़ा सा आप पीछे बैठेंगे पीछे. Your head is yeah. Just bring that. Yeah.
Like that?
Yeah, I think there was some connectivity issue.
Kasargod is Vinoy. Let me see Vinoy.
Okay, Ashwant is also here. Great. Okay. Malvika Sagar, can you just start your video, please?
Yeah, she's starting.
Okay.
Achha, we need PM Narayanan.
Yeah, so is he joining right now?
He has to. Vinoy is there.
You were the last one who used it.
Yeah, in fact, Narayanan is the first speaker, so we need him here right now. Can someone just call him?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
I'm Malvika.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, all of you are audible.
I can't.
Yeah. Ek minute. Let me call him.
Yes, you're audible.
Rahul sir, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible pretty much.
Yeah, quite clear.
Yes.
Why can't I hear others?
Just check the connections once. We have 2-3 minutes to test it out. That's why we wanted to start a
Hello,
little
Vinoy.
early.
On the join chiyamo. We are just testing.
It's quite a bit.
quite a bit.
Zoom il vanna madi.
My headphones are not working, I guess.
Hello, Dr. Nallur.
Mr. Narayanan has not yet joined in, right?
No, not yet. We have 6 minutes before we hit.
Yeah.
So somebody
because I
can call him.
requested the speakers to start be here a little early, so that at least the panelists are here.
Vinoy also has to be there, no?
Yeah. What about Sunil Prabhakar? Has he joined?
No, I can't see him.
I still
Shajan,
got you.
Sunil is yet to join, right?
There's some. 1 second, I just need to check my settings. I can't hear anyone.
Sir, live iliki varamo.
Yeah. I got it.
Okay. From the first session, Tilak is here. Professor Vidya Deshpande is here. And Professor
Yeah, I
Malvika Sagar is here.
Hi, Vidya ma'am. Hi, Ashwin.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Tilak sir. Hello, sir. Joseph sir. Hello, Shajan
Can I put everyone in, admit in 4 minutes more, no?
We'll get only 8 o'clock.
Or I'll wait till.
Yeah, please.
You wait till 8 o'clock because we still have to get some of the speakers in the first session are not here, no?
Yeah, they are joining. They are
Shajan?
joining. They are joining.
Shajan, I just want a quick
Yes.
check. We have got in touch with Mr. Narayanan, right?
Yeah. He is coming. He's
Vinoy Matthew.
He is coming in. He's just joining.
Okay. Sunil Prabhakar.
Yeah, 4 minutes more.
Yeah, Sunil Prabhakar, you got in touch with him once more? Because the opening session, they are the first 3 speakers.
Yeah. Sunil is joining.
Is joining,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay.
He's joining. He's
Okay,
coming.
so because the first speaker right now is Mr. Narayanan, I think he has not yet joined.
Yeah, he's already in.
Mr. Narayanan.
Yeah, he is in. Yes.
Mr. Narayanan.
Yes.
Okay.
He is in.
Okay. Good evening, Sunil. Can you hear us?
Yeah, good evening. I can hear you.
Yeah, excellent. Good to have you here amongst us.
Yeah, what about the lighting and what about the audio?
Yeah, it is
all
quite
fine.
You're
clear.
perfectly audible.
So I have shared the YouTube link in the chat. You can send to other people. It is being live streaming right now.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
You can share it on social media.
Okay.
Okay.
Nitin, yeah, you can adjust your background lighting, I think.
I'll do that. I will be speaking in later session. I'll do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Because we have two speakers in this house.
Yeah.
Let me check Narayanan.
Maybe you can sit.
No, Narayanan is yet to join.
Yeah, Narayanan may join in few minutes. I think.
Yeah. So
What
Narayanan is also in. Okay, so everyone is in, no?
No, Mr. Matthew, we are just waiting for Mr. Matthew.
Vinoy Matthew is joining. Let me see.
Yeah, he is from Kasaragod, I think.
Yeah. He's just joining. He said he has some connectivity issues.
We have 11 participants now.
Yeah, 11
Yeah.
participants. Now,
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Narayanan. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Hi.
Excellent.
Hi, how are you?
Excellent. Good to have you here amongst us.
Okay, thanks.
Joseph Nellore Malvika.
Sunil and Acha, okay, only Vinoy is left, right?
Yeah. So what I will do is that I will mute all, and then you can, when you start, you can unmute and start.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shajan, I suggest
Ah,
we wait for 2 more minutes and give him some time to maybe reach out to us. And
Okay.
maybe instead of starting sharp at 8, we can maybe start at 8 or 2 or something like that, so that he also gets the opportunity to join the panelists.
Okay.
You're talking.
It's better to mute when we are not online. What you
Yes.
suggest? Yeah.
Yes, yes, that's a good idea. So it'll be easier to control. Ashwant, can you hear us clearly?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay,
can
fine,
hear.
fine, fine.
Binoy, I think he. I am just
Shall-
putting admitting everyone in.
Okay. And Shajan, can you just call up Vinoy one more time?
Hmm.
आपको नहीं करना ये आशीष भी बस जैसे देखा आशीष शर्मा को देखा आशीष ଅଛି କହିଲେ ନଥିଲା
Now you can unmute and then start speaking. I have put everyone on mute.
Good evening, everybody. Great to hear from all of you. We're just waiting for a minute or two so that others can also join in.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening,
Good
sir.
evening. Good evening. Good evening. Oh, I'm seeing Madam Asha Khosa is also here. Good evening, Asha. How are you?
Good, sir. How are you?
Fine, fine. Great. Okay.
Akshita,
evening, sir.
sorry, sir.
Yes, ma'am. I will be on mute.
Shajan sir, can you just ask Vinoy one more time? Is it okay? Can you just call him
Yeah,
once
yeah.
more?
I'll just call him. Hello.
अध्यक्ष शायद बोल रहे कुछ सुनाई नहीं दे रहा
वॉल्यूम कम थी
ईयरफोन्स दो क्या नहीं
Can all of you put your audio on mute, please?
सब अपनी ऑडियो म्यूट पे रखो मिनी
Okay.
Okay. Then when somebody wants to speak, then they can unmute and speak. Hello. 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 Vinoy.
Yeah, Nitin. Okay. Let's begin the conference now.
Connect ആയോ? കേൾക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. അല്ല കണക്ട് ചെയ്തോ?
Rahul, I think he's connecting. Just wait for a second.
Yeah. Okay, let me hold on. Yeah. It is possible that there is a connectivity issue.
Vinoy is also in.
He's in. Excellent. Okay, so Shajan, then I think we should start without any much more ado. Yeah, Binoy, can you hear us? Okay. Shajan, I think we can start now and Binoy can join us.
Yeah, I think Vinoy has already joined, so don't worry.
Yeah, you can start.
Okay.
We can start.
Yeah, okay. Good evening and a very warm welcome to all the panelists and the attendees and the guests from across India and also those who are based abroad. Right now, we are facing an extraordinary situation due to the coronavirus pandemic. We are all impacted by it. The focus has also been on health. However, let me stress upon it that media too is playing an extraordinary role. The print media, digital media, and television, they're all doing their job under quite difficult circumstances. We have decided to hold this conference to distill the knowledge from the people who are facing challenges every day. The panelists today at this international conference on journalism in the times of coronavirus are people who have rich industry experience and also those who are media educators. Some of us have bridged that gap and have both experience from the industry as well as teaching experience with young college students. The challenge today for the media has to keep the show running despite all the hurdles that it is facing. Let me point out 3 key elements. First, the television ratings have shot up due to the coronavirus pandemic. People are all focused on the news all the time. Second, digital media is playing a particularly important role of giving complete updates from time to time. And in this scenario, we notice that the reporters are out in the field wearing just a mask and bringing to us all that is happening across the world. Let me also stress upon one more issue, which has been discussed threadbare time and time again, and that is the print media. It has been repeatedly said that print media is dying. But let me tell you, my observation is that despite people feeling that the coronavirus pandemic is affecting them, they are all the time waiting for the morning newspaper. Even in those housing societies where newspaper vendor is not allowed inside, he leaves it at the security guard and then it is collected by the flat owners. This is an incredible story of what is happening and how mass media is playing out its role in this very, very difficult situation. On April 22nd, on March 22nd, when the Janta curfew took place, we felt for the first time that things are going to be really difficult. 2 days later, the lockdown was announced. And since that day till today, all news information flow has been steady. The information ecosystem has showed that despite these challenges, we are resilient. Today, we are going to discuss news threadbare under these challenging circumstances. And also, in a second session, we are going to see how it is impacting culture, how it is impacting education, how it is impacting technology, and many more. So let me take this opportunity to welcome all of you once again to this online conference on journalism in the times of coronavirus. The first session will be chaired by me. I am Dr. Rahul Das, who works for Bennett University. And the second session will be chaired by Professor Vidya Deshpande, who has a rich industry experience and is a fantastic media educator. Professor Deshpande comes from the television ecosystem, and she has proven her mettle not just in the world of TV, but also with her lecturing style, which makes her a very, very popular teacher. We will be holding these two sessions, one after the other. The first session will be focusing on media and news. Let me take this opportunity to welcome Mr. P.M. Narayanan, the chief producer, German television. He is a person with rich media experience and has an in-depth knowledge of what is going on. He is very, very analytical in his approach, and we all look forward to hearing you, Mr. Narayanan, on TV reporting at the time of COVID-19. Let me hand over the mic to Mr. Narayanan, please. Mr. Narayanan, over to you.
Hi, hello. Hi, guys.
Before I begin,
can you hear me?
Make one small point. I'll be holding this placard, which will show that we only have 1 minute left. And once the time is over, 10-minute time is over, I'll be alerting the speaker.
Okay.
All through this conference, may I request all of the attendees and the panelists to please keep your audio on mute till such time we request you to switch it on. We will maintain this decorum throughout the conference. Over to Mr. Narayanan. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you for having me in this conference. Yes, I am supposed to speak on the television in the time of this COVID situation. It's quite a stressful time for our TV journalists specifically, because we are sort of frontline warriors in the news industry, because the TV journalists have to go to the field and report from the situation. This put them in double danger. As a reporter, I'll just briefly tell you what I'm trying to say is that there will be two small part in the whole presentation. I'll just explain you what are the challenges, and then possible solutions, and how I see it as an opportunity. So there will be 3 different sessions, 2.5 minutes each. So I'll quickly go to the challenges. As a TV journalist, as I told you earlier, this is a big challenge, because television journalists have to be in situation to report a story. So this put the journalist as well as his team in close proximity with your protagonist or the situation, which of course is against the social distancing norm, which we always discuss. This is number one. The other problem is that the total block out of the transportation. Like I was reporting today, I was just producing a story from Sri Lanka, for example. today is the anniversary of the Easter attack. So we have to do a story about, there was no flight, no chance to go to Sri Lanka. Of course, I have to produce it. So this is another. So we cannot, as a journalist, I cannot go to a place. If at all I go, I have to keep a social distancing from the situation. For a TV journalist, social distancing is very difficult because as a journalist, what we are doing is taking a situation or looking at a situation from as close as possible and take it to the audience, to a larger audience. So the far we are, the lesser will be our vision. And when we see less, we'll not be able to report to the extent we're supposed to be. So this is the big challenge in front of us. So I will just show some slides to you so that you will be able to I use some slides. Can you see it now? Is it possible? Can you see it? Okay. So I'll just wanted to just let me check it. Yeah. So this is the basic thing. So we have to be in a situation, unlike print or radio journalists, and we have to take care of the team also. So the team means the cameraman, the video editor, the studio. So as everybody know, in the television, we have two different parts. One is the production part and the post-production part. Unlike the print journalist, unlike the print journalist, we are almost always work as a team. A team means the social distancing is always a problem. So what we can do in such situation, I can just explain. It's a very basic thing which we all follow these days. First of all, technology helps us use a good microphone. This is the very practical things which we do, because we can use it. We have very good microphone which has got a range of 2 meters or 1.5 meters. We can get it very easily. Okay, mask, as you discussed it right now, this is the minimum precautions we take. And of course, you need to use sanitizers, use good camera cover, which we all sometimes forget to use. Cover your camera and also the microphone, which is very, very important. I hardly see any of our TV reporters covering their microphone, which is actually very close to the mouth of the person you are talking, and which goes back to your studio, and you keep it in the cupboards, and the entire system can get contaminated. So this will be one of the important points. So, and again, this is the production part in the field. Then we have the post-production part in the studio inside our offices. So yes, of course, again, we have a lot of interaction there with editors, with the reporters and everything. But here also the technology helps a lot these days. For example, we don't need to meet the editor at all, because I transfer the content to the cloud and he can just download it. That means we are just breaking the chain at one point. So production and the studio can be two separate entities. So there will be minimum kind of interaction there. And of course, the translation can be done online. So what I use now is that, for example, I got a story from Sri Lanka, which has got a lot of Sinhala language. I just put it in the WhatsApp, and I send it back to my stringer, and the WhatsApp itself, he will translate it and send back to me. So this is a very practical thing. Actually, technology is helping us a lot, and then which minimize the interpersonal interactions. That is the one point. And then when you come to the challenge part of it, again, as I told you, the transportation, you cannot go to a situation and stay, even if you open up the lockdown after 20 days, there will be definitely flight restrictions, train restrictions. And I think this is going to be the new normal. And as a TV journalist, we have to accommodate, or we have to manage the situation in future. So, so this is something that is going to come out. And what is, as I told you earlier, the technology is one big opportunity to solve this issue. So I find a huge opportunity also. I was discussing with some of my colleagues, like what is going to happen in the future is sort of a decentralization of news gathering. and also democratization of news gathering or the news sources. There are decentralization in the sense you don't need to be in a situation, and you can have a network of reporters. I just wanted to add one more point. We hardly need any reporters in its conventional sense, because the stories are there every place. In Twitter there are stories, WhatsApp, Facebook, everywhere there are stories around us. What we need is a person, a journalist who will be able to put these stories in context. Like basically you place a story in a specific context so that the audience will get the meaning of the story. So this is what the role of a journalist or a senior journalist is going to be in future. So this is what I feel. So well, I think this, as I told you earlier, this is democratization of the media space. Like a lot of a series of reporters across the country, they will be sending stories, news clips, and which we will be using at our studio and making a larger story out of it. So I just wanted to add one last point in this. Mobile is going to help us in a big way. Like the mobile journalism, I can say it, like the 4K video technology. We have fantastic quality videos available, because I got some of the videos recently from different parts, like from Maharashtra, from Kerala. So these are the videos which are really good, and we can broadcast it with good quality. And of course, the high bandwidth through internet, which again is an advantage. What we are doing, I mean, the way we are communicating right now is a technological extension. So there will be one thing. And unlike in the past, I have been in the television industry for the last 25, 30 years. I mean, we had this idea of news, videos, the quality of the news. I think in a news environment, I don't think we need to focus so much on the quality, but we have to be more realistic or close to the situation. Right? I mean, television news is also going to be a disposable medium. Like, we will watch these videos once and just throw it out. Just like what's happening with the newspaper. We don't keep newspaper for today's newspaper tomorrow and day after. Just read it, that's it. So this is going to happen in the, so don't get into the quality of the videos, how good it is, what is the color corrections, all this kind of thing. Okay, so you can do it for documentaries and other stuff, but the news, you have to just avoid such things. So that's focus on the content, get as much visuals as possible, and put the news in context, and use it through a string of reporters across the country. And this will help us to democratize our news gathering, as well as the news broadcasting. And what I just wanted to add last point, the technology can substitute the reporter's moment. So for example, I did not go to Sri Lanka today, but I got a story today, I just being broadcast. So decentralization of news gathering, therefore opportunities for the local journalists. There are a lot of journalism schools across the country, a lot of good quality journalists that are coming up. So we will have a different taste. I mean, this is something very important. I mean, we see reporters, we know, but once we see a reporter, we know what he is going to tell. It's the reporters are getting more and more predictable. So this we can break. And yeah,
we appreciate your views a little bit.
Okay,
about a minute
so
more,
I'll
please,
just
if you don't mind.
there's a last point, which the last point is that COVID-19 will reset our television news gathering, and there are going to be a lot of new business. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Narayan, and thank you for your incisive comments.
Sorry, I cannot hear you.
Yeah, if you could just stop sharing your file, it will be a little easier. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Mr. Narayan.
you-
It is quite
Yeah.
informative. And now let me take the opportunity to invite Mr. Vinoy Matthew. He is the chief correspondent for Mathrubhumi, one of the most important regional players. Now, Vinoy has a deep interest in mass communication and a sound understanding of the media landscape. Vinoy, can you please take over the mic now?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, it is quite clear. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I would. Yeah,
Yeah, we can hear you, Vinoy. You can speak now.
yeah, sure. Shall I speak on my experience?
Yes, yes.
Hello.
Yeah, Vinoy, your voice is reverberating. Yeah, it is slightly better now. Go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you, Vinoy.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Shall I talk on my? First of all, I would just like to talk on my experience on regarding the COVID reporting. You know, in Kerala, the most cases are reported in Kasaragod. It's more than 160 cases. Even though at the national or international level it may be less, but in Kerala it is very high, and almost half of the total cases of Kerala is from Kasaragod. So, and that Kasaragod area is in the Kasaragod district is having 38 panchayat and 3 municipalities, out of which 1 municipality and 6 panchayats have been affected due to this corona. And in this, these 7 local bodies, the police have imposed triple lockdown. Triple lockdown. That means you cannot go out of the home. You cannot come out of the home. So the reporters are, and also what the police have done is they have closed almost all the interior roads, and they will not allow more than 2 persons in a car. That is, if you want to take a photographer with you, you cannot go there with a taxi driver. If the reporter, a photographer, and a taxi driver is not allowed here. So so if you want to go outside, you have, and also pillion driving in a 2-wheeler is also not allowed. So we are facing so many difficulties in reporting. However, since just like Mr. Narayan mentioned, the technology has been developed, so it may be a little more easy to cover all these things. So the restriction is one of the main problem that we are facing. One, and the second one is other than this COVID issue, we have faced another thing, that is the blockade in the border areas from Karnataka. This, even though nobody has died in due to this COVID in Kasaragod district, there are more than 11 persons have been died due to the denial of the treatment in Karnataka hospital. You know, this is a border district, and most of the people are being treated at Mangalore, where there is more than 100 hospitals are there, and around 10-11 are specialized hospitals. And most of the people, there are 15 lakh people in Kasaragod district, and most of the people are depending for higher treatment in Mangalore. They cannot go there due to the ban. The border has been sealed. They cannot go there. Actually, the greater problem now we are facing is this one, and the reporting also. Regarding that reporting, we cannot go to the Karnataka and we can check and whether we can check how this has happened. All these things we cannot go there directly personally, and that much of problem that is now we are facing. And also now there is no print media journalist in the field. As of now, there is very few print media journalists are in the field due to this corona threat. That is also, so everybody, even the police officials have stopped the press briefing, and they are just, so we are unable to clarify with them. That is, we are forced to swallow what they are saying. Just they are releasing the press, and also they are, it's very difficult to get them through telephone. That is one of the problem that we are facing now in Kasaragod. However, one of the relief is that the number of cases are reducing day by day. Even today, 25 people has been discharged from the hospital. So these things are lessening the pressure upon us.
Right.
That is the thing.
Right. Okay. Vinay would like to add something more.
Yeah, I would just like to regarding the industry, our newspaper distribution is also very difficult in this time, because some social media, some advertisement or like that, something has happened. So a few people are not willing to have the newspaper with them. They are just putting the board in front of their home that we don't need any of the newspaper right now. That is what they are saying. That is another problem in the distribution aspect. So many agents are not willing to have the newspaper. I think all over India we are facing that problem. Here in Kasaragod also is there. That is another thing that we are facing.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, thanks, Vinoy. Thank you for your quite incisive inputs regarding the ground situation. And we appreciate all of that you have spoken. Now we'll move to the next speaker. It is Mr. Sunil Prabhakar. He's a consultant online education for Mathrubhumi. And his expertise is fake news. Now, misinformation, disinformation, fake news has been a major issue throughout the COVID crisis. And I think he's the best person to discuss and elaborate on the evolving situation. Over to you, Mr. Sunil Prabhakar, please. Sunil, you need to unmute yourself.
Yeah. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. So I am switching. I am going to share my screen now.
Yes.
I will start from an image actually. 1 second.
Yeah, we can see now. Please go ahead. Sunil, you need to unmute yourself. Sunil, you need to unmute yourself. Sunil?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead now.
Are you able to hear?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, I'm starting with the actually a sentence by the Tedros Adhanom, who is the Director General of World Health Organization. He said that we are not just fighting an epidemic; we are also fighting the infodemic. Because the extent of misinformation in this COVID-19 period that much high, because everybody, normally the people who are interested in spreading fake news or spreading misinformation can make the people panic, can do a lot of things. So all fact-checking organizations in the world, or the websites delivering services on fact-checking, are now crowded with COVID-19 misinformation and COVID-19 fact-checking things. I can show you some of the websites now. I will switch the screen now to Chrome. Just wait for a second. Are you able to hear the screen now? My Google screen now? Chrome. Yeah. Okay. So first I can show you the website of World Health Organization, where they published a particular page on Mythbusters as Mythbusters. It is COVID-19 Mythbusters, because they are actually fighting about not only fighting to the epidemic, they are also fighting, the WHO is also fighting the infodemic. So they are trying to say the people a lot of things, a lot of misinformation in the attention of people. The last one, the first one, you can see that it's a 5G mobile that the incidents took place in UK, and they are trying to say that 5G mobile networks do not spread COVID-19, and a lot of things like this is full of COVID-19 misinformation in this page. These are Mythbusters. You can recover from the coronavirus. Catching new corona does not mean Then a lot of things in the COVID-19 related misinformation. So they are trying to say a lot of things in here. Let us switch to other page. Look at the BBC page of fact checking. That is BBC reality check page. It is also again filled with a lot of misinformation spreading in the COVID-19 period. Again, the story is no 5G does not spread coronavirus. Why a drug to treat malaria is selling out around the world. A lot of false claims is coming. So a news is there with the false claim about virus testing in South Africa, and a lot of things. It is again, this website again is filled with a lot of COVID-19 misinformation. Let us switch to another thing, that is fact check the AFP.com. Again, this busting coronavirus myths. A lot of things they are updated with a lot of things from the how to spot COVID-19 misinformation on WhatsApp. They have given a separate story. WhatsApp, they have provided a good service in India also. You can switch into the WhatsApp page where the IFCN fact checking organization on WhatsApp, all telephone numbers are given in different countries of all IFCN certified or IFCN members in the fact checking domain. The WhatsApp numbers are given. Anybody who are interested to check something, some misinformation coming from a separate country or a country like Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, so you can send the things into their WhatsApp numbers. They will help you in finding the misinformation or fact check some or fact check something you come across to the WhatsApp message or something like that. Again, in India, the Press Information Bureau started a fact check page as per the instruction of the Government of India. This is the page they are communicating with the people about the misinformation about the government decisions and things, where they have given a page where you can report of any news related to the government, if any misinformation related to the Government of India through this page, then they will help you in finding the truth about this thing. So this service they started 2 weeks ago, and now they are getting a lot of misinformation from the people about the government decisions on related to COVID-19. Then let us check for the other fact checkers in the country, that is Boom Live. Yeah, it is again full of COVID-19 misinformation. You scroll it like the fake news about coronavirus. They have started a special page on coronavirus, and the same thing about the alt news also, where you can find a lot of coronavirus misinformation fact checked there. And then Google has got a separate tool, not Google, in the Google fact check tools page. A separate section is there known as Explorer, where you can explore the misinformation coming from various countries. So in the Google thing, this will help the journalists to a great extent to find, because sometimes, for example, the 2-3 days ago, a lot of newspapers published the words of Ratan Tata on this thing. Actually, this is actually misinformation created in the social media platform, and a lot of newspapers carried it. In Kerala, something happened. A photo. I can show that photo later when switching back to from Chrome. Then some other organization like sciencefeedback.co, they are building an open source database of these information sources on COVID-19. So see the extent of misinformation happening in this COVID-19 period, where a journalist need to verify everything coming, especially from the social media or especially even from the news agencies. For example, in Kerala, a picture published by a lot of major news agencies in Kerala, a picture of the Chief Minister of Kerala lighting a lamp, a traditional lamp, not a candle, not a traditional lamp, a candle, during in the last ceremony lighting the lamp ceremony that happened in last week. But actually, the image was actually a image, old image. It was an image taken in 2018 during the Earth Day observation. But major, that means main newspapers in the state, including the national dailies, published this image as the image of the image happened within the recently with the function. But so several things are happening. So mistakenly, lot of newspapers are carrying. I remember a case that happened in 2 weeks ago, where newspapers in the Middle East and some newspapers in India published a news about the football player in Portuguese, where that about one of his statements, that is he's he's planning to convert his hotels into COVID-19 hospitals. Several newspapers in Middle East, major newspapers in Middle East and major media houses in India carried that.
Sunil, just to let you know, you got a minute more, please.
Yeah, I get 1 second. Just I will complete in one minute. So these are the things happening in the COVID-19 period, and the abundance of misinformation coming in this area. So it makes the work of the journalists little difficult, because all journalists need to fact check this thing. So everybody need to depend on reliable websites or fact check agencies or the government fact checking services before publishing a news item coming from, especially from social media. So I can show you one more thing, and before concluding this thing, 1 second, please. Yeah, 1 second. Hello.
Yeah, Sunil, go ahead.
Yeah. Just trying to show something. Okay. Okay, I will conclude now, as I was trying to show you a video. It is not available now. So I will conclude now.
Sure.
Yeah. These are the things happening in the about misinformation in this COVID-19 period. So it is a challenge now. So every journalist should take utmost care before publishing a news coming, especially from the social media. They need to verify it with the reliable sources, with the World Health Organization websites, or the FDA website, CDA website, or ministry's websites, and verify the information. And the ministry itself is giving some fact check surveys. They can depend upon IFC and fact checkers. Numbers are available. They can send it to somebody to immediately know whether this is true or false. So this is the situation of the misinformation in this pandemic period. So I am concluding now, and over to Dr. Rahul.
Yeah, thank you, Sunil, for the very illuminating narrative on fake news and what is happening ever since the COVID pandemic broke out in the world. Now, let me take this opportunity to invite former BBC China specialist, Dr. Tilak Jha, who holds a PhD from Jawaharlal Nehru University. He has traveled extensively across China, has been a research scholar there, and right now is an assistant professor. His classes on China are looked forward to by the students. Dr. Jha, I'm handing over the mic to you right now.
Okay, thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, please, we can hear you. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. So my topic today is COVID-19, state media's role in China's health diplomacy. There are several terms in this topic, and the first of the thing, of course, is that it's about coronavirus. That is what brings us all together. And it talks about the role of a state media in China and China's role in health diplomacy. Many people have said many terms about it. They have called it mask diplomacy. They have called it virus diplomacy. So many terms have been mentioned about China's diplomacy in recent days, recent weeks, to be specific. I have mentioned it health diplomacy because that is how the Chinese media would like to and has been basically trying to position it. So, I mean, I would just like to share one slide and share how it actually, a brief recap of how Chinese media is before talking in detail about it. I hope this is visible to everyone. All right.
Yes.
Okay. So if you just see the slides, what it tells is essentially that there are three pictures on this slide. And the first picture on the right-hand side, it's about traditional media. So you would have heard that, well, Chinese media is pretty big, and it is actually pretty big. It's almost one of the world's biggest media platforms. So people often tend to underestimate the power of Chinese media and brush it with sort of one paintbrush, that it all is the same. The fact is that it remains a very huge media. The second fact, which has become pretty prominent over the recent years, over the past 20 years to be specific, is that social media in China has picked up substantially. And there is every substitute of all the global platforms. So Google has a Chinese substitute called Baidu. You have a Chinese Amazon. Amazon is also there in China. They have their own Facebook, in a way, which is almost equal to what they call WeChat. They have their own Twitter, in a way, which is primarily their Weibo. And almost there is substitute for everything that we can think of. And the third picture on the left-hand side, you can see is that there is a AI anchor. Now, this was something which Xinhua and Chinese news agency have been trying at least for past couple of years. And the goal over the years has been that, well, news can be read by artificial intelligence itself. So, well, artificial intelligence is being put to use by even Financial Times and other global agencies, including BBC as well. But how China is using it, essentially to disseminate news and to set news agenda so that human intervention is limited to the minimum. The second the slide you can see is that this is one of the coverage of it shows you the coverage of Chinese newspapers when in 2017 Chinese Communist Party of China's Congress happened, the most important Congress which happens every 5 years. As you can see, the papers are different. For example, the first one is Beijing Repao, which is Beijing Daily. The second one is People's Daily, Renmin Repao. It's a Chinese version of it. And you have this third newspaper as well. So, I mean, all these newspapers, not just these three. If you see any other newspaper across China, they are all full with similar photographs, similar captions, almost everything same. And of course, in recent times, by the way, in recent weeks, if you go back to the Chinese newspapers, then things are different. Xi is relatively not on the front pages, though he is coming back. As the coronavirus hunt is, China has gained ground, Xi is coming back on the front pages again. But in recent weeks, even now, if you see today's newspapers and Chinese websites, you'll not see that much of it. So why is it important to take a look at it? It's simply, I shared this slide briefly because it is important to see how Chinese media actually works, in the sense that they always try to ensure that there is, Xi remains in focus, the party remains in focus. So that is how they actually try to essentially make sure that the news agenda is in their focus. So what I'm trying to, can you tell me how to do away with this slide sharing for a moment? Hello?
Nitin, can you help,
Share.
please?
Yeah, you can stop share.
Stop
Just
sharing.
go and click on stop sharing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Is it fine?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so why I essentially talked about all of this is because China's diplomacy in recent days, recent weeks, is also focusing upon a different kind of diplomacy. And it's not just domestic aspect, it's global aspect. When Chinese media works, they work as a unison. In the sense, I think I covered Chinese media for at least 3 years. And I mean, if you go in the offices of Global Times or Shanghai Daily or any of the Chinese newspapers, including in Xinhua or all these news agencies, everything works fine. Google is accessible, Facebook is accessible on the system there. But outside is almost everything is not accessible, almost nothing is accessible, which essentially means that the Chinese use the information available in the rest of the world, but they do not let that information to be shared publicly in China, to be available publicly in China. And essentially, and they use it essentially to set the agenda. They use it to set domestic agenda, they use it to set global agenda. So if you see the tweet that, by the way, Twitter is banned in China, but all the Chinese media, including CGTN, which is China's national broadcaster in English language, you have CCTV and all these, they all are, Xinhua is pretty much prominent on Twitter and Facebook and all these social media platforms in the Western world. They remain blocked in China, but they're very, very active. And you would have heard recently that the Chinese Foreign Ministry's spokesperson, he essentially gave a statement that possibly the coronavirus could have been a US Army creation. And this is where essentially the Chinese newspapers and Chinese bureaucrats picked it up substantially on social media platforms across the world. I mean, so there are stories about how things actually have been and then how things actually play out. But I'd just like to bring in two very important references before.
Dr. Jha, about a minute more, please.
Yes.
Please continue.
Okay. So just two parallels of how this coronavirus crisis could have actually played in China and what actually has been reported. So if you compare how it happened in US, another country with a population which is equal to at least a fourth of China, not more than that, it has received already 530,000 cases. And that has happened in almost a month sort of situation, because the first patient of coronavirus reached US on 15th of January, and the person was from Wuhan. He lived in Wuhan, he went to US. On 1st March in New York, that was the first case reported. And it has been 42 days since then. And we see that in New York alone, almost 180,000 cases and a third of total deaths in US are coming. And now you have a situation, another case in Wuhan, where according to reports, the first case came in on 10th of December. The official confirmation, Xinhua reported a release on 6th of April, and it said that, well, possibly actually it did not happen in December, early December, it happened in late December. And so that report said, confirmed it that late December, but even by that standard, I mean, it has been almost till 19th of March, they were saying that they just had around 200 odd cases. So that tells you the kind of anomaly in how actually report pans out, how they can actually set the agenda, and possibly the world is out of choice rather than even believing it. I mean, so you see how US and Germany and other countries are facing it and how China is facing it. So a New York City, which has a population of less than Wuhan, is almost suffering, and Wuhan, which has almost 11 million population, got away with 3,000 casualties. That simply cannot be the truth. So how it did it? It of course did it because apart from the fact that almost nothing comes out of Chinese media, the fact is that there is an active censorship, and active censorship of all means of public expression. And that happens on social media, that happens through television, that happens through education, that happens through wall paintings, almost everything. And I think almost not a single thing in general in China. Well, of course, there are exceptions, which is where we actually get our reports from. So there were cases where, for example, you would have heard about Dr. Li Wenliang, who essentially shared the information about this SARS-like virus on his WeChat, but he was shut down essentially by the police. But there were other doctors who also had tried to bring out this information, but they were shut down. So effectively, we have a situation over these months, past 3 months, now 4th month to be precise. The Chinese media is not just helping the Chinese government to change the rhetoric domestically, it is actively working to change the global rhetoric. And if you see the headlines, they are pretty much obvious. For example, Xinhua reported on 10th of March that China's Wuhan closes all 16 temporary hospitals. On 21st of March, there was another report in People's Daily which said China has resumed 60% of medical services. Better reports from some China-based platforms itself said that they were actually putting up lights rather than actually workers.
Yes, Dr. Jha, I think.
Yes. I'll just wrap it up. Another report on 21st March said that, well, possibly it's the US which needs to clarify that how COVID-19 came, signaling essentially that it was not China. And this has kept on building. Now China has rushed to Europe's rescue, and the Chinese media has taken a lead role in claiming that, well, China is the savior. And then, of course, you have Global Times editorial, which I'm sure several of you would have followed, and you see the tone and how it actually reports things. So we have a situation where things in Chinese media can be very, very dramatic. And it's one way to just say it, well, but if you get further, there are actually Chinese platforms which report things, and Chinese government does allow those things. But of course, they do not reach us directly. So ultimately, what it brings down to the fact that Chinese state media's role needs to be taken with a lot of caution. And whether they praise us or they criticize us, we need to be very, very careful about how to read that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jha, for your very, very informative narrative about China, which finds itself in the midst of this coronavirus pandemic storm. Now, let me take this opportunity to invite Professor Vidya Deshpande. She has been a very, very senior journalist and now a media educator of considerable repute. Professor Deshpande, I hand over the mic to you, please.
Thank you, Dr. Das. I wanted to, today I'm going to be talking about solutions journalism and how reporting can go beyond just the news report that you see in a paper. Although, unfortunately, most of the time, I think our reporters don't have that time and luxury compared to foreign newspapers where you get a lot of time to work on one story. Here, people are working on, they have too much on their plate. So let me just quickly take you through my presentation. And let's just quickly see what is solutions journalism and what is being done about it, right? So what is solutions journalism? Basically, when you talk about traditional news, you talk about the 5 W's and the H. But in solutions journalism, you talk about the what, you talk about the how, you offer an insight, you talk about the limitations, and then you also talk about the evidence of impact. So let me give you some examples to tell you what I mean by this. When you're talking about solutions journalism is when you give the whole picture. Okay, so it is, the definition of course is to give the insights, working, not working, or partially working. The key is to look at the problem and the response. Most of the times, as reporters, we just stop with the problem. We're not able to go beyond this. One of the biggest examples during Corona has been the issue of migrant population. So if you take a look at the migrant population, what has happened? Till such time the lockdown happened and those information that was sent out by the government probably did not reach the people who are at the migrant level, and they started leaving after 2 days en masse. Yeah, many of them started walking, etc. So what happened was you suddenly had this shock of thousands of people walking back to their houses, or trying to walk back to their houses and creating a problem of too many people crowding in the bus stands, etc. And finally, the government had to step in and supply buses, etc. Of course, we've read many stories about people trying to walk back home, and some of them, I think there was a story in yesterday's paper saying how one of them died, etc. So the thing about solutions journalism is how we could have done this differently, or how somebody can still do it, is to look at the migrant population. For example, if the government, if we look at the way some other country does it, and if we had a register of all migrant laborers who are in a city, and if you knew exactly where they came from and where they had to get back to, we may not have faced this issue of suddenly people reaching the bus stand and not finding a way to get home, because nobody really knew how many migrant workers we had and from which parts of the country they came from. So this is a part of solutions journalism, where a journalist has to spend more time researching the topic so that you can do stories differently and not, be less divisive and more constructive. So it's not just about feel good, okay? It's or balancing out the doom and the gloom. That's not solutions journalism. So if you take a look quickly, let's see at the checkpoints. Focus on a problem and respond to it. For example, you had the story about the masks. What happened initially? Everybody was trying to get hold of an N95 mask or a surgical mask. And what happened when people started mass buying these masks? It became an issue. People who actually needed it, like surgeons and healthcare workers, frontline workers, did not get masks. So then we had to come up with a solution where one of the newspapers, of course, has taken a front line on that, where you're saying that use any piece of cotton, anything that you can clean, anything that's soft on your face, and cover your face with that. And in fact, now it has become compulsory in most cities to wear a mask when you go out. So this is something like a solutions journalism story, that when it became a problem of getting hold of masks, then you got into this story that how people can devise other ways of using masks. The other thing, of course, is the Bhilwara experiment or the Agra experiment or the Kerala story, where you talk about the how-tos of the problem. What happened in Bhilwara? It was a very successful effort of curbing that situation where Bhilwara became a hotspot and there were so many people who had got infected with COVID. And how the local government there kind of worked together from the senior to the junior levels, and how they stopped it. That is something that we could look at and emulate in other parts of the country, wherever we have hotspots now. In fact, I think a lot of the governments are now doing that. They are emulating Bhilwara model, Agra model, and the Kerala model. Okay. The other thing you can look at is focus on effectiveness. For example, when you look at what happened in South Korea, how was South Korea so effective? They came up with this testing system, which was very quick. And what did they do? They had this drive-in booths where people who thought they had corona could drive in, and you could give your blood and your throat swab for checking. It was as simple as that. And now in India too, we've picked that up, and there are some cities which have started this, including Delhi and Gurgaon, where you have drive-through systems where you can have your self-checked whether you're corona positive. The other thing that you can look at is social distancing, where inspiration and insight, this is something else that you look at to social solutions journalism for. So you do stories where you can look at how other people, how you can inspire others to do stories, but it also should give insights about how it actually works. There's no point in just saying social distancing in the metro. If I go to a metro station and I don't know how social distancing works, then it's not going to help me. So this is another kind of story that comes into solutions journalism. Then again, the other thing is that when we talk about solutions journalism, is that you can't just leave out something that is bad or that hasn't worked. For example, if you take the case of TJ, right? There's been a lot of hue and cry over it, saying that we are targeting people. one of the things about solutions journalism is that while you don't target a particular community or a particular people, you need to talk about what actually happened there and how that should have been curbed right from the beginning, and how maybe police slash government inaction at the point when they had those meetings um, in March should have been stopped, but didn't happen, and how that problem could have been stopped from escalating to this level. So these are the things about solutions journalism that I wanted to talk to you about. I will leave it here. So the thing is not to talk only about the problem, but to also talk about the solution. Another example that I'd like to quickly give you today, for example, there was a story about this lady who wanted camel milk for her baby who was autistic in Mumbai. So what happened? She tweeted, and then a DM saw it, and then they finally kind of got in touch with the railways, and one of the trains dropped off 20 liters of camel milk for her from Rajasthan. So now the thing is that how do you take this story forward? You could take it forward by looking at a way to report on what can be done so that 20 liters of milk is evidently not enough for that baby to last maybe 4, 5, 6 days. After this, what's going to happen? Because the lockdown is likely to go on for another 2 weeks, right? So if perhaps the government had started a register where you register yourself and list out these problems from the beginning, that I have an autistic child who has these special needs. So people are already aware that this need is there. Okay, so we could discuss this later in the questions also. I will just stop here and hand the mic back to Rahul.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Deshpande. It has been very, very illuminating. Now I take the opportunity to hand over the mic to Professor Malvika Sagar. She's a very young and dynamic media educator, a very strong researcher. She has some fantastic ideas. She is right now working as an assistant professor at the School of Communication, MPT University. Professor Malvika Sagar, can you please start? You need to unmute yourself.
Sorry. Good evening, everyone. And thank you for joining us for this conference today. And today my topic for presentation is sports media and coronavirus. I would like to share my screen with you all for my presentation. Just give me a second. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, so my topic is a little light-hearted topic in the times of COVID-19, wherein everybody is talking about, everybody is being worried what will happen, and we should understand that we have got this, time wherein we can spend at home with our family members. So most of the time, we used to crib that, oh God, maybe if I have a lot of time, I would like to watch, this match or that match. But right now, when everything is on hold, so is sports also. There is no matches, in the entire world, wherein every country used to play different kind of sports. Our Olympics were also supposed to happen. Everything is on hold. So my presentation, my research is based on this. And let us talk about Olympics, which was supposed to be happening in upcoming months, in the month of June, I suppose. And this Olympic was organized by Tokyo. And right now, they have also postponed this Olympics to next year, seeing the situation, which is, very intense right now. So everything is on hold. Now, the question arises over here is that now, if sports is not active, what is happening on the sports channels? So let us take a view on the screen, wherein let's go to certain facts and figures which are available. Now, when we talk about Tokyo Olympics, 4.48 million tickets were sold as of March 2020. So that means the entire money which was spent by the viewers is blocked, and 56 venues were blocked, wherein payments, partial payments were made, and the local stakeholders were also interested, and they had invested a lot of money into it. So now everything is on a question mark. 72 Tokyo 2020 dedicated shops were also allotted. An International Olympic Committee was confident to conduct the event, but because of COVID-19, there is a question mark again. And because of this, pandemic, the entire Olympics have been shifted to next year. Then Indian Olympic Association initially, they supported this Olympic, and they were very positive about it. But they also, seeing the situation, they have also put their uh, foot on hold again. Then this delay entirely costed Japan a loss of $6 billion in the economy, and it has affected a lot of sponsors and stakeholders. Moving on to some other facts and figures, wherein we talk about certain events which were cancelled or preponed. It is not just Olympics that has happened, that has put on hold. When we talk about cricket, football, athletics, field hockey, archery, everything, every match is on hold. There were so many interesting matches which were supposed to be happening around the globe, but now everything is on question mark. Then when we talk about matches on empty ground, there was a situation wherein the federation also thought of conducting the matches, but they, uh, wherein the players, they are playing on a field, but they do not have any audiences to watch them. They also, do not feel enthusiastic about it. And of course, when the, sports are involved, there is a lot of money involved, advertisement is involved, the stakeholders interest is involved. And if those matches goes without the audience cheers, it definitely is not going to earn them revenue what they get. So no audience in the field during the early 19 COVID days, when matches actually happened, and they happened without the audience. Then later on, sport associations tried to host events, but healthcare measures were also taken in order to ensure the player safety. Then, travel advisories and relocation of the players was also done when COVID-19 had spread. Now, these are the main arguments of my research that you can see on your screen, wherein I'm trying to connect sports with pandemic. The first point that I want to put forward is that this novel coronavirus has affected sports like anything in the history. Till now, nothing has affected sports industry as much as this virus has affected. There were a lot of problems initially. So many flu, so many problems happened in the entire world, but nothing affected sports. Sports was such a medium, was such a platform wherein, it was used as a deviation from the current problem. But right now, there is no sports also happening. Sports obviously served as a significant distraction and a way to unify people during the unfortunate events. Everybody used to gather around the sport matches. They used to feel uplifted. Everybody used to cheer for their different countries, and it was a kind of a distraction for the normal people from the XYZ situations, adverse situations that they used to face earlier. But in this pandemic, sports is a central part of the story, and it is also the part of the problem. Now, once things resume, sports will witness with no attendance, hence dip in the revenue. So here, one point I would like to mention is that even when the sports are going to resume, because of this coronavirus and spread of information, everything is standing on still. And even after, when everything goes fine, when our government says, okay, now, you can go outside when this lockdown goes off, so people would be very cautious in buying the tickets to go to a particular ground, wherein social distancing till now, which we have followed, will affect our brain, and our, upcoming manners in our behavior will also be affected. So everybody would be very cautious to gather in such kind of public places. So sports is going to be affected at a large. Now, what is exactly happening on the TV screens? It, as per the reports, when I was reading,
Professor Saga, you have got a minute more to finish your presentation, please.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. So when we talk about the current, news channels, what are they playing? Of course, they are playing the older, telecast, and this particular thing is known as the nostalgia factor. It has been seen. The reports have come that the TRP has gone 30% high as compared to the earlier TRPs of the match. So as you can already read on the screen, these things are happening, and there is a high TRP rates on sporting channels which are booming up in our country. When we talk about ESPN Cricinfo, this is the current commentary which is going on the previous matches which had been already been played. And when we talk about soft stories, the journalist, as Vidya ma'am rightly said in the previous presentation, we have to look for the solution. So here the solution for this sports journalism is that they are coming up with the soft stories wherein they are including the interviews and updates on the sports person. I'm sure everybody might have seen that video wherein Virat Kohli is talking with Peterson, and from behind Anushka says, "Chalo chalo, it's dinner time." So it was a kind of a very popular soft story. So these are the kind of stories which are coming and which are entertaining people. This is the last slide that I want to talk about, that these are the popular program genre during the COVID-19, wherein there are, news channels are and even websites and print media is also trying to focus on the positive stories from the sports sector. They are trying to analyze the games, maybe Sachin Tendulkar versus Virat Kohli in their 20s, then player statistic analysis, personal videos from the sporting stars, and they are also talking about the details of the upcoming events which are going to happen. And this is the important point that I would like to mention, and which is a major part of my study, that is team management news, wherein the stakeholder interest is the major interest. And here we have a major example coming from the Kerala again, wherein Kerala has been facing a lot of problems for past 2 years. First there was a lot of rainfall issue, another we had flood, then Nipah virus was there, then Kerala's famous boat race during even those times also had taken place, and it had gathered a large amount of tourism and the stakeholders interest. Even Sachin Tendulkar was the they want Sachin Tendulkar was a brand ambassador for CBL. So here the major point is that the stakeholder interest should retain. If the stakeholder interest is retaining, then definitely when the things will be better, after COVID-19, I'm sure it will be, sports and media would be in a better position. Yeah, that's all for my presentation, and thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sagar. It is a very, very nice presentation that you have delivered. I think we have time to squeeze in a couple of questions. The first question is to Mr. Narayanan. Mr. Narayan, can you hear me?
Yep, I can.
Yeah. So, the question is, what challenges are there before editors in TV when the bulletins are mostly live?
I just answered it in private chat. In fact, I'm not directly linked to the news room activities. I'm more of a producer journalist working in the South Asia Bureau, so I'm not really aware of that factor. But of course, I don't think there is going to be a lot of change because of Corona in this aspect, because the newsroom backend activities are more or the same. Of course, they will be getting more data and they have to analyze it. These kind of things, I think that is normal in a newsroom situation.
Rahul, if I may add to that,
yes, please.
One of the big changes that has happened in a television newsroom is that a lot of the anchors are anchoring out of their homes now. You know, the way technology has changed, you're just using your mobile phone and you're anchoring. And only primetime anchors are going to the studio because primetime is more important, and you need to get all the guests and everything together, which is not very easy to do from home. So from home, most of the anchors have a kind of setup where they can take in 2-3 guests together. But whereas for prime time, you have to go to the office to do work. So a lot of work.
Yeah.
For the first time ever in a television channel, people are anchoring from home. Even in radio, RJs are anchoring from home. They've been given setups at home and they're anchoring from there, which is unprecedented, unheard of in the media.
Yeah, thank you. And my next question is directed towards Dr. Tilak Jha.
Yes, sir.
One person wants to know that even though the state media, we are all aware, is quite under the government control in China, but what about the common people? Do they have an understanding of the gravity of the situation?
Well, I would just like to tell one small incident which I witnessed personally. There was this language partner of mine whom I used to teach English and he used to teach Chinese. So we were in this university in China, in Hangzhou. And it once so happened that there was another guy who lived nearby in his hostel, just beside his room. And that guy committed suicide because of some personal issues. And that person, my friend, he got to know only after the police came searching, because that guy had jumped and he had jumped without any document with him. And so nobody actually could find out that where he was from, which room he was from. So they actually went to ask that where this guy was from, which room he was from. So I think, and apart from that, nobody actually got to know. The entire hostel didn't get to know about it. That news was absolutely censored on the local university intranet. It didn't come on the internet at all. So I mean, what the Chinese censorship does, of course, is that if you see Chinese newspapers, almost everything is goody-goody. I mean, you can't really find any negative news in general. But then what it has also pushed is that Chinese people have become very, very sensitive to anything negative that comes on media. So I think if anything negative comes on Chinese media, that gets shared much quicker than positive news. So I think what I would suggest that within 5 minutes, 5 million shares is almost pretty much normal on WeChat, and it has got that kind of volume, and it gains traction. The censors also have become very active. They also delete it immediately, but people have found ways. But of course, I think that's true for relatively a small section of internet users. Otherwise, most people tend to believe the government's propaganda, and that's true for, I think, many countries. That's happening in US, that's happening in India, that's happening in many other countries. So yes, but there is a critical mass which does know what the government does. So I think they have a mixed relationship with how censorship works in China. So they do know things. Those who actually want to, they can find out. And I think Chinese government also allows, especially websites like Caixin, which is called CIXIN, it's pronounced. And so such websites are there as well because of legacy and because of several other factors. So you can see that, well, it's a mix which has both sides.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Jha. Now let me take this time to wrap up this session. Some very, very interesting points have come up. Just to give you a brief background, this international online conference on journalism in the times of coronavirus is being organized by the New Media Editors Guild of India, along with in-depth communications. And the speakers here have spoken in great detail about the challenges that media is facing, the role of technology and how mobile can come to the rescue. On fake news, there has been stress on fact checking, and also Dr. Jha's point that on the role of the state media vis-a-vis China, Professor Deshpande on solutions journalism, and basically the point which has been made is also about decentralization and democratization of news gathering. These are two important key points that have been made in this session, and I think we need to keep an eye open for this, because in the coming weeks and months, we may see a lot more stress being laid on that. I have separately been receiving some private messages addressed to me. Just to share with you, I am Dr. Rahul Das. I have been a journalist for over 2.5 decades, and I was last working for Hindustan Times, and I have now gone into media education. I think that's more than enough about me. Now let me take this opportunity to ask Professor Vidya Deshpande to chair the second session. And thank you very much, each one of you, for the lovely presentations. Thank you. Professor Deshpande, over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Das. Okay, so we're going to discuss, so far we've been talking about news and the media and what's been happening with the kind of news that we've been getting. But, we're going to discuss life beyond news and information, life as we know it today. So what has happened? It has changed. For most people, life, as you know, has changed. And for many of us, the thing that's going to happen is this may just become a new normal. There may be a time when work from home for a lot of companies is going to become the norm. The way we travel, maybe you'll never get a middle seat in an aircraft again. Maybe you'll only have the window and the aisle because of social distancing. Or the way we travel in a bus, where early we all used to, a Mumbai local where you're hanging onto the rails and traveling. But with social distancing, maybe that none of this is going to come back ever again. So the way we live is going to change, most definitely. Education has changed. Schools and colleges have gone online. And as Malvika was mentioning in the previous sessions, big sporting events, we don't know how we're going to watch IPL or UEFA football again. So without too much ado, let me just quickly get into the topic and first invite Professor Joseph Nallur, who is a media educator. He's also a very, very senior journalist, and he's a professor at the Murdoch University in Dubai. So please, Professor Nallur.
Hello. Hi, good evening. I'm sure you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. Very good evening. I think this has been an evening of amazing discussions. So just to quickly run through a few points, I was looking at some of the discussions where Mr. Sunil talked about websites for fact checking. But today, let me just start off with something that we all have been using, and that's WhatsApp. So I am looking at the impact of technology, not just websites, but a whole lot of things which I would love to share with you. And the first one is WhatsApp. And India has more than 400 million WhatsApp users. I mean, 2 billion worldwide, but India has 400 million. And WhatsApp is leading to something in India called infodemic, flood of fake news, whatever you want to call it. Every day, my groups are just filled with it. Thankfully, WhatsApp has limited forwarding to one person at a time now. So I hope my phone is ringing less because of this. But I also want to highlight how the government of India, the WHO, the PIB, across the world have taken corporate WhatsApp accounts and added people to it. So just to give you an idea, the MyGov WhatsApp account has now 2 crore users with almost 5.5 crore conversations on it. And this is an amazing use of a simple medium like WhatsApp, because essentially what happens is when I teach in Dubai, we Indians are we use 2 crores, we use 5.5 crores, but here you need to make people understand 2 crores is 20 million, 5.5 crores is 55 million. It's only then do non-Indians understand the volume of the kind of messages being sent around. The MyGov app, the MIB, I mean, today the WHO is working, WhatsApp is working with at least 20 health ministries around the world, setting out information. I don't know if any of you have tried it. Please download the WHO. You can add them as a contact. You can say hi, PIB, you can say namaste, and you will get information. PIB is also using it. PIB and MyGov is also using it as Mythbusters. So you don't have to go to a website and upload. You can just send them the information on WhatsApp, and they will do the fact checking and send it back to you on WhatsApp. So that's how technology is being used. Like the first slide we saw, the Director General of the WHO saying the digital technology today gives us an opportunity to spread health information faster than a pandemic. Think about it. That is how much technology has come. We can spread information faster than a virus. And today we see governments coming across the world using these apps. So we have Facebook pages, we have TikTok videos, we have Twitter, we have social media being used to the best of their abilities. And I'm sure it can be used further. I know of several app developers where they've taken it up to, they're using Hindi, Gujarati, Telugu, Bengali, Punjabi, Malayalam, and several other Indian languages to reach out to their audiences. In Dubai, one more thing that we have seen in Dubai is the use of simple SMSs. The government here has, they have an SMS system where they've tied up with all mobile networks. So even if you're a tourist here, if you're on the UAE mobile network, you get messages from the government telling you about curfew timings, telling you about lockdowns, telling you to stay at home. So even people who are not on any social media platforms, these are people which, you know, we assume everybody is on social media, but they're not. But SMS is something that people cannot say they did not receive from the government. Another point I want to talk about is contact tracing apps. This is something that a lot of people are talking about, how we can all install an app, and then the app tells us if we have come close to another person. And if that person is infected, the app is supposed to tell us. So just 2 days ago, Google and Apple have come together. Android and Apple operating systems will work together. But all of this wonderful technology works only if the user enables to opt in. You have to install the app. You have to put on your Bluetooth. So there is a lot of initiative required from the user to be part of it. But at the same time, there are countries like Israel who have just gone ahead and used it. They've taken your phone data, location tracking, GPS, turned it on and said, we will do it. Even if you don't opt in, you don't have a choice. We know if you're coming close to other people. Taiwan has introduced something called the electronic fence. If you're infected, what they do is if you're under quarantine, they limit your number to a single mobile tower. So if you move away from the tower, automatically the authorities get an alert and they call you up and ask you, where are you going? Get back home. So essentially, this is the use of technology to make sure where people are going. Again, the Bluetooth-based app, the data being collected for contact tracing, who is saving this big data? Who is taking care of user privacy? I mean, are they only taking my geolocations is a question that people need to ask. And what happens after the virus? Do they delete these data collected from us? I don't know if you know this. All of you need to go to Google and type in Google COVID tracking information. And they have already done it for every country. And it's free data that you can download on a PDF for each country. You can use it for your research. Another technology which is suddenly like a horse bolting out of in a race has been video conferencing. The amount of apps that has come out for video conferencing, people always had WhatsApp video, but suddenly we see a new horse called Zoom. And with Zoom has come security issues. We have seen Zoom bombing. We have seen people hacking into Zoom meetings. And Zoom is also, I mean, origins from China. I mean, a lot of people talking about, and we have government Singapore banning the use of Zoom in schools and universities. And we have other governments also saying, don't rush into these before finding out what is being done. Another technology which most of you have seen is the use of drones. There are 3 items when it comes to drones. One, photojournalists are able to give us amazing coverage of cities under lockdown. Drones give you footage that nobody else has seen. It doesn't require the journalist to go out onto the street and shoot. Second thing, drones are used by the police, even in Dubai and other countries of the world. The Kerala police had a very hilarious video where they put drone footage chasing people with cricket commentary. So that's the fun way of telling people we're keeping an eye on you, but also the use of drones to spray disinfectant in cities. So this is also something that we have seen, drones being multiple use of drones. Coming to the last point, because I don't want to overshoot my time, is the limit of the internet. This virus has shown countries are your internet systems ready for everybody to just switch on the internet and start streaming? So around the world, Netflix, Disney Plus, YouTube, all of them have reduced their quality. They've all come down to SD 480p. YouTube has gone normal all around the world. It's default. You can put it to HD if you want to, but default. So why are they doing this? To stop the internet from breaking. So here comes the have-its and have-nots. There are countries in Africa, there are countries in the Middle East, because of conflict, because of issues, which the internet systems have not come developed to optical fiber systems. And today they're feeling the strain of suddenly switching online. Zoom meetings are not working, video conferencing is not working. So you have these challenges going around. I don't know if anyone knows, this is not connected to the virus, it's connected to the new year. When India went from 2019 to 2020, that midnight, 100 billion messages were sent on WhatsApp. Out of that, 20 billion messages were by Indians. Think about it. 20 billion messages at the stroke of midnight. So that's the kind of volume of WhatsApp messages, and hence all these social media people trying to reduce fake information, trying to reduce the bandwidth problems, trying to limit. WhatsApp has automatically reduced the status video from 30 to 15 seconds. I'm waiting to see if Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, all of these guys, can India support the bandwidth for all these things going forward as well? So that's something that we will look into. Any other, I'm happy to take questions right now. I think I've covered my points.
Yeah, I think Mr. Nallur, we'll have to wait for everyone else to speak, and then we'll take questions towards the end.
Done. Thank you.
I'd like to now call Professor Shajan Kumar. Shajan, he has been into graphic designing for more than almost 3 decades, and he's a huge expert on data journalism. And data journalism is now the new thing in journalism. It's very, very important because that's the way journalism is going. Everybody on digital media, you use these interactive graphics to get to know what's happening. And it's a very good way to tell a story. So Shajan will now tell us how to use data and graphics to tell a story.
Hi, everyone. See, this evening when I sit at home on quarantine, the information which I get is mostly through the digital media, wherein a lot of digital storytelling, data storytelling happens. So let me share the screen and we'll go ahead with the stories. Okay, what is data storytelling in the times of coronavirus? It's very important. When you look at the information spread across the digital media, the print media, television, everywhere, it is giving
87.
So what is happening here? It's like data storytelling is the process of
Nitin,
creating.
I think you need to go on mute, Nitin.
Yeah. So what is data storytelling? Is the process of creating a story out of data analysis. It is very important when you say that data analysis. It allows the layman to understand the possibly complex insights and apply them to any decision or action. And now, as big data becomes more relevant in organizations, data storytelling becomes very important. So look at this coronavirus crisis. Credible data that makes all the difference. And luckily we have World Health Organization, and they have worked hard to provide us credible data. Look at their website. You can see the data being created in a way that it makes us feel this coronavirus COVID-19 thing is really spreading across the world. See the numbers, 89,657 and 16,14,000 99,951, 5.41 percentages, 99,887. See, all these informations which are very relevant when you are doing a story. And again, that's 6,892. And it's all the data which is updated to that moment, and any journalist can use it for their stories in a much researched manner. See, United States, the number, Brazil, Spain. I mean, every data that is given here, authenticated by experts and collected for use at different segments. Either it is in print or digital media, television, anywhere. If you want to use, you can really work on these data sheets which are provided by. See, it says that globally as of 2 a.m. CEST, 12th April 2020, there have been 16,14,091, 951. That's over the time. The numbers are given very concisely, like Europe has, America has, West Pacific, Eastern Mediterranean, Southeast Asia, Africa, and daily cases by WHO region. It is giving you Europe, Western Pacific, Eastern Mediterranean, Southeast Asia, Africa, highest cases, which is now United States of America, Spain, Italy, Germany, France, China, United Kingdom, Iran, Islamic Republic, Switzerland, Netherlands. So this is the way World Health Organization have given us the data, which has been very useful for any journalist to work on with their stories. And it can be like, you can download this map and use it, customize it and use it for the purposes which you are really looking at. Again, this is something which has provided journalists kind of understanding of the situation and how drastically this epidemic, like pandemic, is moving forward. This is by the World Health Organization. Now, when the world has given you this kind of data, you have a possibility of having things in further methodological in that sense, like the Ministry of Health and Welfare has worked on their website. See, COVID-19, they have given the details of Indian data, 7,367 active cases, cured, discharged 715, to 73 deaths, migrated 1. So it's also giving you the latest updates of the day and how to go about it is again being very specifically given. And resources are also available with them that gives, and some awareness posters also being provided by the ministry, and this data are very relevant in that sense. And it also have given data of the states, how it has worked. That's again, which is the work. You have a map which has been created also, which is again a very useful kind of thing which is there. So now how they have been doing this. I have a like a portal package, which I would always suggest journalists who are working on data to look on. It is Flourish. It's a studio thing which has been worked out in support of Google and now being used very extensively by the students of data journalism and those who are really serious about using data for their stories. It's beautiful, it's easy, and very, very powerful in that sense when you are working on this kind of platform, which is really going to help you out. So how you really want to get into this is that, see, Flourish is working on coronavirus stories also. Quickly turn your spreadsheets into stunning online charts, maps, and interactive stories. You can see that there is no coding required because journalists who are not really interested in coding. So you don't need to know coding when you are working on Flourish. You can do animated storytelling embedded on and download it and use it on your websites. And it is being used by many organizations, including Guardian, Google, all these places. They've been using this. Now, let me show you some examples in that sense. It's kind of data visualization in a wonderful manner. You can do bar chart races, survey data, magic charts, connection globe, zoomable hierarchies, story maps. All these things are very easily can be made using Flourish. So I'll just show you some more segments wherein they can do. You can do story maps. You can do arc maps, chord diagrams, mapping events. All these things are done very, very, very effectively in this. Like, see, this is the kind of interactive graphics which you can work on Flourish. It gives you, say, plotting competitors, Twitter timeline, the shoe dropping. I said it's all stories which can be done through Flourish. One of the best portal which I have been using for quite some time, and I've been very happy with the performance of this particular segment. It's very easy
Shajan,
to work.
I have to request you to start wrapping up 1 minute.
Yes, yeah. I'll just finish it off fast. So now how to use it is the thing which I just wanted to tell you, and I'll wrap it up with this. So you just have to log in and select one particular segment. This coronavirus cases which we have been working on. See, this is the kind of a graph which we have worked on with an India map provided into, and that is been very, very streamlined and worked out. See, the data is been like, you can just upload CSV data and then put it into the thing, and then it will work out to be in these segments. So then you just have to publish it. You can publish it and it comes in this format. And you can use, copy the URL and use it anywhere you want to use it. Okay, so that's what is it. And in case if you think, say, I'll just wrap it up. Okay, this is what is basically on data journalism, and many of the publications, digital media everywhere, Flourish is being used properly. And thank you for this segment.
Thank you so much, Shajan, for that insight on how to visualize data and use it, because that's the way, that's the direction in which journalism is moving towards these days. I would now like to invite Professor Malvika Vettat. She is a visiting professor at the Karun University in Dubai, and she's been a feature writer. And we are now shifting track on our COVID talk. We're going to look at how it has affected culture. You know, because we cannot have people gathering together to watch a show or a concert or a dance performance because of social distancing, and also because you don't want to catch corona while you go to one of these events. The way we look at events has completely changed, and we let Professor Malvika take you through what she thinks about how we will look at culture from now on.
A very good evening to you, all of you. Thank you, Professor Deshpande, for that introduction. Not wasting time, I think when one talks about culture during times of Corona, I think the first image that pops in our heads is, I think, people belting out opera or singing classical tunes on their, or playing classical tunes on their violins on in Italy or to their balconies, who are self-isolating residents of Italy. And Italy, with being the hardest hit, these are images which will forever remain in our minds in terms of Corona and culture. But that's about Italy and balcony performances. Before moving on to concerts and performing artists, I want to briefly mention how it has impacted our culture and our daily lives. I think first of all, it brought to the fore the way how we greet each other, and that highlighted the Asian way of greeting, whether it was a Japanese Ito or a Namaste, which suddenly got popularized the world over. Secondly, I think it has really impacted our culture in terms of our festivals. We just finished having Navratri, which is celebrated in very different ways across India. And suddenly we had to have people just limiting it to their families. Similarly, today is Easter, which otherwise would have mass gatherings in churches across the world. But we have how churches and priests have adapted and taken to technology. And you have these services, Easter services conducted just with the priests and a few other members. And you have the whole parish viewing in or listening in via video. Now that's something which we really wouldn't have thought of unless the virus had come in. On a lighter note, or maybe taking it seriously, looking at everyday culture in India, it has really checked, how we treat personal space in India, which is, we don't have any regard to personal space, whether it's queuing up in lines, sitting in a bus. That has really been brought to fore, and we've been made to make circles and make people stand in line. And I think a lot of them will appreciate if that is continued even after the pandemic is over. Now coming back from how it is affecting our every life and culture to actual concerts and artists, I think the virus has divided performing artists on very new lines. That is the tech savvy and the non-tech savvy. The tech savvy artists, I feel, wasted no time in taking their talent and their skills to their audiences on social media, whereas the non-tech savvy artists who are the hardest hit. When I look at non-tech savvy artists, I think we have to look at, especially in terms of India, we have puppeteers. We have folk artists like the Mandanyas in Rajasthan. We have the Baul music singers in Kolkata, who only know real physical performances, and they earn their daily income through festivals or by performing in hotels, in tourist locales, or even in crowded journeys like the one from Kolkata to perhaps Shantiniketan in Bengal. Similarly, I think very importantly is when we look at the case of Kerala, I think arts and performing artists are very intrinsically linked to temple festivals. And unfortunately, this is the time most of these are held. This is not restricted when I look at numbers to a mere few dozens. We're talking about hundreds and thousands of artists who actually look forward to this time of the year to earn money and to share their art. Just to give an example why I say it's not limited to dozens, during temple festivals, you have a percussion ensemble which can range from anywhere between 15 to 20 right up to maybe 100 or more. That's called a melam, and you have people coming from everywhere coming to partake in this. The annual Trishur Puram festival is something which I would like to highlight here. Is the biggest example. It's an annual temple festival in Trishur, which attracts huge crowds. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it in your news bulletins every year. And these crowds, even though it's a temple festival, it attracts people from different religions who just come to soak in the culture of Kerala. You have caparisoned elephants, you have huge tourists coming in, and that has been cancelled for the first time in 58 years. The last time it was cut short was during the Indo-China War. On the positive side of it, I think the one thing the world has learned is that culture is stronger than a virus. And it has surely given a lot of positivity to people during the lockdown. And I think artists have really responded to that call, and their creativity has gone beyond measure. I think we've seen a great rise in collaborative orchestras, collaborative music videos, where artists take to technology. That's where I bring in the point of technology and culture. An example worth mentioning and definitely worth listening to is the Rotterdam Philharmonic Orchestra, who performed Beethoven's Ninth Symphony from their respective houses. That's in the Netherlands. Definitely a here. We also had our Bollywood artists do the same through a short film and a music video. I mean, why is this important and why is it crucial to highlight these? You and me as audiences will finish listening to it in a minute, in a few minutes or a couple of hours or so. But it takes a week or so to produce them. The Philharmonic Orchestra I was referring to, it had 19 musicians playing the same tune in their respective houses. And then each video had to be combined for the final collaborative effort. They started off by saying, we're adjusting to the new reality. This is their quote. Same way we have, like I mentioned, Easter, we saw a huge number of church choirs and other choirs rehearsing online for weeks. So this is part again of everyday culture. One example in India I would like to say about choirs is the Bangalore chorus, where we had a huge number of, I think, whopping 135 Bangaloreans came together, aged 7 to 70, and they made their videos and sang songs like Hum Honge Kamyab to send out positivity. And they started off by saying, here's to sing your blues away. Moving away from collaborative performances and technology, I want to come to now the point of social media. I think social media has been really optimized by classical artists who I think already had the know-how. I think Instagram Live and Facebook Live have been playing a stellar role as preferred platforms for live classical performances online. I think it's a different feeling listening to a live concert or a musician singing a Thumri or a Padam online rather than just depending on a curated YouTube or Amazon Prime video, music video. Because you have artists who can interact with the audience, explaining to them what he or she is singing or performing, giving context, explaining nuances. An example is, I think, an organization called Alap Concepts, a performing arts initiative based in Chennai, who have been running daily cultural sessions where you have either one singer or a dancer coming and performing. So we had one session only on one raga and exploring the nuances and moods it can create. So I think that is a huge plus point for Rathikas or connoisseurs of the arts.
Malvika, you have a minute to wrap up. Thanks.
Yes, I'll do that. Thank you. Like Alap Concept, there are many groups that taken to Instagram Live and Facebook. The last point I want to come to, which also has a monetary impact, is I think the hundreds and thousands of tutors who impart cultural training every day as their source of income, who share their knowledge. And I think many of these gurus and institutes have also gone online with their classes, just like so many schools and universities. So I think they should be included in the educational realm as well when we talk about education and during the pandemic. Looking at the diaspora here, since I'm based in the UAE, we have a lot of Indian diaspora institutes who have gone online. And here the payment problem doesn't exist because you have online payments and they've almost seamlessly transitioned into this. Apart from music and dance, you also have culture and daily life because you have a lot of yoga classes that have taken online. And I think there are more people signed up now because they don't have to brave the traffic anymore to go for their yoga class. I'd like to conclude here by saying, I think with all its challenges, I think culture has triumphed for now, at least for now. Because if you're watching your Netflix, if you're binge watching Netflix or Amazon, or you're turning towards film or watching reruns of old programs on Doordarshan, I think it all boils down to the fact that you're depending on artists to add positivity during a lockdown and a pandemic. Thank you so much.
That's so true, Malvika, because everybody is hooked on to watching, even if it's the 1980s version of the Ramayana, people are still watching it.
Exactly.
And of course, everyone's binge watching on Netflix.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I would now like to invite Asha Kosa, who's a very, very senior journalist and has been reporting on Kashmir and from Kashmir. Somebody muted me. Okay. You know, she's been reporting about Kashmir, and today she is going to talk about how coronavirus has had an impact on Kashmir and how health has become a casualty in this protracted conflict in Kashmir. Asha, over to you.
Yeah.
We can't hear you, Asha. Maybe you need to increase your volume.
Okay, 1 minute.
Yeah, you can begin speaking.
Am I audible?
Yes, much better now.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much for inviting me here. And in fact, giving some gyan may not be so much, because I have gained a lot of things from this conference as a journalist. The data journalism was really interesting, and thank you so much for that. Well, yes, as I have reported Kashmir for 10 years. As a young reporter, I reported a conflict. And conflict is not confined only to Kashmir. It is, we all as journalists, as young journalists, many of you will be out there reporting conflicts, smaller conflicts, bigger conflicts, and the bigger conflicts you'll be reporting. So I want to look back at my reporting of a conflict in the context of what is happening today in Kashmir. First, I'll tell you very briefly, what is happening in Kashmir right now. See, there is a difference in human behavior in Jammu, which was not so much affected by conflict, and Kashmir, which was hugely affected for almost 30 years in the conflict. In Kashmir, compliance with the lockdown and with remaining indoors is a problem. The enforcing agencies are finding it as a major problem, and the incidence of coronavirus is very high there compared to Jammu. And Jammu is reverse. Jammu is calm, much better. I won't say there's 100% compliance, but there's much better. There are human initiatives, the people initiatives be taken up, like women in a village. They have come up with an idea that they should be monitoring who is out there, loitering around, and they should control them instead of police always. What a wonderful idea! And villagers in a village, in Kathua village, they have voluntarily decided that they must give up food, one-time food, so that the same food can be distributed to the people. So this is one level of behavior. Kashmir is very difficult. The people, they are not ready to sit inside. People are looking for mutton. They're going quietly to the bakery shops and from the rear doors and trying to get the bakeries. The administration is really harassed, and they're saying what we can do. And there's a lot of advertisements they're doing through social media, and there were a lot of volunteers also. So I, as a journalist who has reported on conflict, I would like to go back and think, did I do something wrong that people have reached at this stage where they're not afraid, they're not afraid that death is staring at them if they don't take care. The way we reported conflict, was it right or was it wrong? Well, as a reporter who is on the ground, you report what you see, what you hear, what you understand, what you interpret. But, a protracted conflict like Kashmir, should we look at it from the other way? Should I, as a reporter, I'm questioning myself, should have looked at the total destruction of healthcare system in Kashmir. They're brilliant doctors, they're good government hospitals, but not many big, private sector hospitals have come up in Kashmir because of obvious reason there were security fears. Did I do my part well in reporting conflict in a manner that people had confidence? Did I give them hope? No, I don't think so. The journalists have given people hope and told them, hello, today there are some people who are throwing stones, and tomorrow things will be better. Let's not put everything in the, today's incident of throwing stones and that is end of the world. So my lesson is, which the future journalists also can take it from me, from my experience. I'm sharing my experience. My reflection today tells me, no, something has gone wrong with the reporting in such conflict situation. We have ignored a lot of areas while reporting death and destruction. Of course, we have to report that. We haven't reported enough how the health has been impacted, how the education has been impacted. For the local people who have to understand that conflict means this also. So I hold myself guilty, and I wish the journalists of the future, when they are reporting a conflict, they look at things differently. A conflict is not end in itself. There are other parts of life which have to be carried on, and the conflict is going to de-escalate. It will end one day. But have we given people some hope? As a journalist, I have to question myself, and I'm sure the teachers who are teaching, conflict journalism to students, they must tell them this, that there is, you have to strike a balance somewhere. You can't be only talking about negative things and not looking at the developmental stories. Like I didn't look much at the healthcare issues then. Now in Kashmir, people are facing the heat of it. Second thing I like to share, Kashmir and other conflict areas are difficult to be covered, in the sense, in Kashmir right now, you just have 2G network working. Hats off to the journalists who are keeping us up to date. They are sending us, I am in many Kashmir groups, so I get immediate news through WhatsApp. Like today, I can tell you what all has happened in Kashmir. 5 incidents, I can rattle off what has happened. So technology has become an enabling medium for all of us, and we should take advantage of it for the good of humans. We have to take a lesson from China, and for their society, they do what needs to be done, and not always spreading gloom. In Kashmir, I'm afraid we have done a lot of spreading of gloom, and we could have done with a little less. We could have focused, as journalists, we could have focused on other aspects of the life also. Secondly, I would like to focus on the future. As a senior journalist who has, headed some verticals, being chief of bureaus and all that, I to the young students of journalism, I tell you, there is WhatsApp journalism is not journalism. Information is not important nowadays because anybody can give information. An incident has happened on the road. If I am not a journalist, I am standing there, I pick up the phone and record it and air it, broadcast it. I become the hero of that day. I am the journalist of that day. That is fine. But the concept of news has now changed. I, as a senior journalist, like to see more of science reporting, more of critical issues of healthcare being reported. So far, what journalists are doing, they are just reporting what government is doing on science. On healthcare. Government is saying we are going to launch a program, which is fine, which is good. But now, after this COVID, what is going to change? The journalists will have to look for a more in-depth, more analytical, why stories. Why is this happening? What is happening? The basic information will come, incidental information, the incident information about
Asha, you need to wrap up your talk, please.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
I will wrap it in a minute. Yeah. So I see a great scope for journalists who take up science as their beat, who take up healthcare as their beat, and who take up other developmental issues as their beat. And I would like to see, and I also request everybody, the senior journalists, the editors, to have less focus on political, tutu mamas. Let's focus more on developmental issues, because we were not reporting enough on the health. That is why we are here today. And we don't have full knowledge about our infrastructure, what we have, what we don't have. Also, the issue of, somebody raised the issue of these migrant laborers. Why there's not focus on that? So I am predicting, hopefully, there'll be more focus on other developmental stories and not just the political rhetoric. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Asha, for that. Yes, our journalism has always been centered around politics. And maybe with Corona, we're going to look more at health and social issues like migrant labor populations, etc. I would now like to call upon my colleague and good friend, Dr. Rahul Das, to speak about education in the times of Corona, how things have changed. The way we look at school and college education is no longer going to be the same from here on. Dr. Das.
Thank you, Professor Deshpande. Let me share a little secret with you. On March 24th, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced the lockdown, that night I was thinking that I have 3 weeks with me. What is going to happen vis-a-vis my students, number one? How am I going to deal with that? And second, can I take this opportunity to upskill myself during this period? Now, what happened? Because it was a very sudden and abrupt change, we had to learn how to teach students using different apps, whether it was Zoom or through Microsoft Teams. Now, the situation was this, that the students too had to learn from us in a difficult situation. So before I get into that, I need to share with you some statistics that will throw a fresh perspective on the problem that we are facing. As of today, we are well aware that education is an essential indicator of the human capital. We have no doubt about that. The numbers are quite significant. We have got nearly 260 million students and 1.5 million schools, 39,000 colleges, in which 27 million undergraduate students and 4 million postgraduates are studying. These are the numbers. And these numbers stand just next to the numbers which China has. Okay. Now, let us come to the budgetary aspect. In 2020 budget presented by the Finance Minister, Nirmala Sitharaman, the education sector has been allocated rupees 99,311 crores. That is a huge sum. Now what happens? On March 24th, everything comes to a standstill and our lives are turned upside down. Such a huge amount of money we have at our disposal, but we still don't know whether this is the way forward. We are still trying to grapple and trying to find solutions. It is so sudden that even the classes that are being held, whether they are being effective enough, we still do not know that. So in my discussion, I'm going to look at two parts. One, which is the traditional education system. And number two, I'll also look at the obsolescence of the traditional system and whether the new system of upskilling and learning new aspects through short duration courses online is the new way of life. Okay, so now coming to the first part. the governments, not just in India, but across the world, are now trying to reach out to students and having regular classes. It is not a problem till such time the student is in an area which is having good, strong bandwidth. But what about the villages? What about the far-flung areas? What about the mountainous regions? There lies an opportunity here. If we can get a fix on that, it might turn our education system more robust. We need to look at strengthening the infrastructure, and maybe online education is a way forward to fill in those gaps which are existing as of today. As a media educator, I also realized one more thing. The students are deeply interested in learning. It is just that the delivery system has changed. We are no longer in a classroom having one-to-one sessions. We are in our own homes, we are, as we call, the work from home, and the students are located in their own homes. So what is the challenge? The challenge comes particularly for people who are having lab classes. For normal theory classes, you can give a talk and the student will understand. But how do you manage to tackle a lab class where the teacher has to be present right next to the computer to help the student gain a sound understanding of how it can be done? The situation is this, that we are all trying to evolve new systems. And are we able to do it? Yes, and partially no. How are we able to do it? We are now asking students to submit their assignments. We go through it and we send it back to them. And in the next class, we take a fresh look. That is one way of doing it. The actual impact of this delivery system, we will come to know when they have their end-term examinations, right? Now let me come to the second part, and this is equally important for all the attendees here, particularly those who have started working, and even for those who are students. Online education is provided us a great platform for learning a fresh set of legs. We can learn something new and put it into practice. It has the great benefit of providing flexibility. So how do we go about it? We have time on our hand and we learn something new. That is one way. Now this time has come to us perforce. So we need to look forward and ensure and imbibe this new system and see to it that even once the lockdown is over and we are free to move around, we need to keep on continuously learning new things. Okay. Now, this brings me to a larger question. I've been thinking about this for quite a while. Till about a few years back, the old system of studying for 15 to 18 or maybe 20 years, you study, and for the rest of your life, you use those degrees to continue making a living. Is it still relevant? That's my question. Now, in such a scenario, the answer quite categorically is, and it is quite a matter of grave concern too, that it is a no. We need to continuously learn new skills today. Technology has made it completely obsolete, whatever we may have learned about a decade back. Now, education is available to us at the click of a button. So what do we do with that? There are 2-3 things that we can do. One, as a student, if we wish to learn something beyond the structured curriculum, we can pursue that dream. For a student of mass communication who is interested in learning maybe more about documentary making or about filmmaking or about photography, you can have a more detailed course from the net. Second, for those who are professionals, what can they do? Since education is quickly evolving, we can do short courses and ensure that we are abreast with whatever is happening across the world. Fortunately for us, because there are courses like different points which are being offered through Udemy, you can do those, and whatever is being learned, say in the US or Europe, you are doing it sitting right here. So it is not that as if there is a lag in the education system. Number three, for those who are neither school students or college students or neither professionals, they are just ordinary folks. What can they do? They can spend the time learning about some skill or craft or something that interests them and makes their life more wholesome. Education, in fact, we need to see from a fresh perspective. Till now, the whole focus for nearly 1.3 billion people here is to get an education, get into a higher education, get into IITs or IIMs, and get a superb job which is well paying. But I think it is getting more and more obsolete now. We are now headed to
wrap up.
Yeah. What we are doing is that we are now headed for a scenario in which education is going to be the booster that will ensure that our lives are more wholesome and complete. Education will make our lives more enriching and more fulfilling. I strongly suggest that we visit different course profiles, enroll and learn a new skill so that we are better prepared for the tomorrow. It is this system, what has happened, the pandemic has really jolted the education system, and perhaps it is time that we can take a new look and learn from it and maybe better prepare ourselves. Thank you so much, Vidya, and over to you now.
Thank you, Dr. Das. Yes, it is a big question as to how we will look at education, whether classrooms make sense anymore, or whether, just teaching students through e-learning is as good. But only time is going to tell us how that will pan out. I now invite Dr. Nitin Kalorth, who's a filmmaker and a photographer also, to talk about documenting coronavirus, daily life and reality. Over to you, Nitin. Nitin, you need to unmute yourself.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. So that documenting the coronavirus of like daily life and reality. So when you talk about reality in daily life, so we are living our experience. Like those, we might have heard about stories of World War I, World War II, or other struggles which our parents or which our older generation must have told. But rarely we don't have any visual evidence unless we have some photograph or some video clip of those time. We don't have much more evidence of those reality. But what happening here? This, for example, this is the, if you Google that 1918 Spanish flu, this was the pandemic which was often discussed during COVID-19. We can find only very few kind of pictures. Most pictures are sponsored by the government, that ruling government, of the how effective their medical system was, how they were protecting their citizens. So we cannot find any video from the user level. So as we know that the virus is invisible, but in reality, it has many faces. We have faces of people walking for 600 kilometers to reach home. We have faces of people who are struggling at home because of domestic violence. We have faces of people who are waiting for, like somebody got a job but they cannot join. We have a lot of people who are waiting. They got admission in foreign universities, but they can't join because of this issue. We can find a lot of people faces who have invested a lot of money in the business. Maybe there are a lot of people who are facing anxiety. Those many young entrepreneurs who invested a lot in the event management. As you know, this is the marriage season, wedding season. A lot of wedding halls are booked, but everything got cancelled. So cancelling everything and social distancing is the only way to counter COVID-19. But when you're talking about documenting, okay, there are some things I want to discuss importantly here. Talking about documenting in digital space. So once social media and digital media came up, that the transition from traditional media, that means every day of our life is recorded and documented, not only in terms of pictures and video, but in terms of text, in terms of social media post and social media or live and all. Social media is actually becoming a newsroom. Okay, this might be contrary of what you learned from your textbook or taught by your teachers or what we learned ourselves. So in newsroom, what happens? Reporters are collecting news, editors are monitoring and publishing, but social media is becoming a newsroom. Everybody can report what's happening in their neighborhood, and it's also helping with a shared journalism where journalists are taking inputs from the social media and they're getting reported. So technology-driven documenting is happening, like there are a lot of applications made by government. There was circular going from MHRD to all teachers and faculty or students to install Arogya Setu. So they are documenting our everyday activities, our movement, and application like Google Maps and Google Timeline. They're mapping where we're going. Even though if we are doubtful that we were in the area where some people were involved in COVID-19, we can easily understand where we were there, are we safe? And also there are a lot of application and platform like TikTok, there are softwares like Vlog. So they are also helping us to enable the documentation. So earlier the documentation was a part of more official way, but now documentation is becoming very what I call user related. So this is one case study of one blogger. He's called Shakir. He's from Kerala. He was one of the early patients who was affected by COVID-19. He is a patient working. He was a person working in abroad. He came to India and he was quarantined in hospital for 14 days. So he done vlog every day, like whatever happened in Kerala or whatever how he is being treated. So in early days, there are a lot of news came from hospital. What all food they're getting, how they are treated. So maximum media houses took his videos, whatever he's doing live inside hospital. So this kind of documentation is happening. And also we might have know after Narendra Modi requested people to thank health workers around India for clapping and for taking the balcony and praise emergency personnel. So that you might have seen a lot of videos from the government, from the media houses of this. But also we might have seen a lot of user content, like many people criticized this kind of movement. Many told that nobody is actually staying safe. Another important thing is that the documenting domestic violence. Domestic violence is one of the least reported and least documented violence happening during lockdown. I know many cases where both women and men, they are stepping out of the home or the domestic space just because they're not safe at home. This will not only be with adult, also with children, especially people who are staying in remote area or people who are staying with separated parents or they are staying in troubled family. So during this situation, the digital spaces can be used to report these violences and it can be reached to the concerned authority. So what's the most important thing in this, that there are narratives happening and there are counter narratives. That's the most important thing which you can notice. One is authority documentation, which will be happen, whatever may happen. Government will have their data, government will have their visuals, they will be using these for propaganda. If I want to rethink, you can see a lot of video and photograph by Hitler, like how Hitler was good or how Hitler was doing good to society. We can find a lot of German video and Nazi propaganda video of that time. Second come media documentation. Media also documents for their purpose. So they have agenda, because we now we already discussed about fake news. We already discussed about how TV reporting happening. And third one, which is the most important, is user documentation. That is the revolution happening right now. We can counter all the narratives. If you're telling that there is a coronavirus in special area, and media is trying to show that, people staying there, they can come up with new narrative. And this especially happened when people who are like a lot of people are volunteering themselves. There are incident happened that some people were accused for roaming outside in Kerala. They were caught by police. But inside police station, what they done, they show the ID card. They show their for what purpose they are going out. They were going out for volunteering. So these kind of documentations are also happening because of this digital space. But there are vlogging and live media, because these documentation are of course uncensored, and it has no control. Especially the application like TikTok are also being highly accused for that. Like people can give lot of life hack or medical self medications. Already report that many people are hospital because of wrong medications. And also because of this documentation, the manufactured content will be less. Example, the public relation oriented content, which will be very less during this kind of pandemic. And also, most important thing, whatever we are living reality and experience, that's also been shared widely on Facebook, on social media, is also becoming part of future. So to conclude, what I want to, yeah,
Dr. Nitin, thanks.
So what I'm telling that we are becoming a part of history. Tomorrow, there are chances that your social media posts, your pictures, your videos will appear in the textbook of your children or your grandchildren. So that's what I want to conclude. The power is up to you, that is digital citizen. Thank you. Thanks, Vidya. Vidya, you are on mute.
Sorry. Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Kalorth, for that. It is indeed very enlightening. And most of the time, you don't realize now that, you know, you put out a post on social media and you don't realize it. Like he said, we don't know what's going to happen 10 years from now. That may appear as a study in some textbook, or, you know, people may be using it for something else. So while we are documenting our daily lives, we really don't know what or how it's going to be used later. And now I would like to really call on Professor Ashwant G. Krishnan from Jain University. And he's going to talk to us about storytelling in the pandemic days, redefining digital spaces. Over to you, Dr. Krishnan.
Hello, very good evening, and thank you for having me. I think my talk will be an add-on to Dr. Nitin's discussion. So I'll be talking how digital spaces are changing and what is happening there, how stories are being made. I'll share my screen right now. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Yeah, so to begin with, let me tell you this. You may have noticed that Facebook has invested $100 million in journalism recently. Out of this, $25 million will be directly going to media outlets, and this 75 will be going to the endorsements for several media houses. Addition to this, there is a 61% increase in general news browsing all over the world. So let me keep this here and just have a note of this. Adding to this, there is a growth of social media activities happening, and there were 22.3 million plus conversations happening about COVID-19 in India, and this is as on 24th of March. And total growth in the country, it is 50x. That is a very huge amount. And adding to this, there were regulations on social media by YouTube itself. They were kind of regulating the videos, as Dr. Nellus mentioned in his session, sticking to the standard SD format. So all these are there. Now I'll tell you how the digital space or the content of this space is being changing or going through a very rapid change. We have discussed about data journalism and data storytelling. And as you can see here, how beautifully is the data given in websites and how people can easily understand the data. As if now, COVID-19 is the biggest news and will be the news for another month. Every single, most of the stories are purely based on data. What is the death rate today, or how many patients are being affected today? So everything is purely based on data. Now, the biggest crisis point journalists are facing, I think, right now in storytelling is how to visualize it or how to present it. And mostly, if you see the shift of people who are watching news or the amount of people who are into news these days, these data, the same time should be going to the intellect and to the common man. Now, the challenge is how are we going to satisfy the desire of both these two sections? There comes the data journalism, I guess, and we can solve or present the data in a different manner. And the other thing what I noticed is re-engagement. So we have seen the news that government has decided to re-telecast certain TV serials like Ramayana and other things. Right now, a lot of events have got cancelled. So again, there is a crisis which is happening in broadcasting industry as well, because there is so much content. So everything is based on COVID or something which is surrounded by it. And a lot of media houses are physically closed. So creating content is a challenge. So that's why a lot of media houses are going for re-engagement, I guess. At the same time, the bloggers, especially the travel bloggers, they cannot go out, they cannot do new blogs. So they are again posting the previous post, again keeping the audience engaged with the old post. Again, this is kind of impacting the audience behavior as well. People are revisiting the older steps or liking the old Facebook post, something re-engaging with the older content, which is again a culture which again is rapidly growing, I think, in the past 1 month. And collaborative art. So this is an example which I want to share with you. This is called the Choose Hop story, which was a collaborative film made by 250 plus filmmakers telling one single story. So these were collected from different filmmakers all across the globe and edited and made to one single film. So not just the YouTube filmmaking, you can see the collaborative art projects in Facebook, in Instagram. So we had this previous culture of having this, but now, as most of the artists are in quarantine, this trend is becoming more and more popular, and you can see a lot of productions coming as a collaborative project, especially using the digital space. I think we all have seen such challenges in Facebook. So these are some of the content which are dominating the social spaces right now, the challenges. And this is one challenge which was posted by Cristiano Ronaldo, and which has got a immense audience reception all over the globe. So this is a very interesting story. This is the Instagram post by this photographer, Alvin Anthony, who's a photographer based in Bangalore. As you can see in the picture, you can see the photographer's face also. And this photo was captured through a voice or sorry, a video call with an iPhone. So just see how the workspaces are changing digitally. And he was giving instructions to a video call and clicking photos just with his phone. Not just the technology, but again, if you look at the aesthetics of it, I wanted to take you to that stretch as well, not of the technological advancements, but again, what is happening to aesthetics. Now, here, if you look at the photograph, there is no much of depth, or there is no much of dynamic range to the photograph. But again, people are okay with this content. Where Nitin was telling us about the videos which was created by users, which again are popular these days and which are again engaging. So these videos, especially videos made with TikTok and other platforms, are kind of creating a new digital realism where people are no longer bothered about the compositions, the depth, the angles. So if you see this, so the first one is a post made by a very famous guitarist, Sumit Ramachandran. You can look at the composition and look at the angle. And second one is a post, a Facebook live video by a theater artist. And the third one is again a video by a family. You look at the three different frames. And these are not the traditional compositions what we have followed, and these are not the traditional ways of documenting or photographing things. So there's a huge change in terms of aesthetics when it comes to the user-generated contents. And people are getting okay with it, people are getting familiar with it. And I strongly believe this kind of realism or this kind of framing or this kind of visuals will be there for a while, and people are getting okay with it. Now, to extend it, so this is these are two photographs from the recent post by a fashion influencer. So as the headline says, you can read, fashion influencers are rethinking their curated aesthetics because they can't leave their houses. So the Instagram feeds of social influencers again are kind of coming up with very realistic photographs. There's so much of very very professional photo shoots or with a very expensive equipment. They're just shooting with the phones, and you can see the shift, the aesthetic shift here also. If you just scroll through the Instagram feeds of influencers, you see a shift of aesthetics from what they were posting and what they're posting right now, because to be connected with audience is very much important for influencers. They want to keep posting. They want to get connected to the audience. And look at the way they're creating content. There is a huge shift in aesthetics. Now, coming to VR and AR. So VR from 2014, Bloomberg released a proof of content VR add-on, but again, it was not kind of blooming in. And again, 2016, Google came up with this new feature called Google Daydream. Again, it was not a very good success. But again, now, when the classrooms are going digitally, when the people are going online, I see a lot of chances people rethinking about using VR and AR technologies, especially when it comes to the hospital part, the medical healthcare part, and to the industrial areas where it need realistic involvement and exchanges. So I think this will be a turning point in the future of VR and AR, where we will be connected and they don't feel these physical distances. And video conferences, of course, can do to an extent, but again, this moment is very crucial for VR. Again, we know from many years VR was ready to fly, but again, a lot of hindrances about the hardware, and again, the expenses of hardware was stopping the VR. And again, the only one game which was trending was the Pokemon. No other AR game could have that status of Pokemon in any devices. Now, I think
Professor Krishnan, you need to start wrapping up.
Yeah, sure. So I think this will be a game changer for AR and VR. And so this is one thing which I am very excited about, the state-centric communication model, which again, we know that the Kerala police has 1.4 million followers in Facebook, which is the largest followed police Facebook page in Facebook. Now, this video was trending all over the globe from the last 2-3 weeks. The video demonstrating the Kerala Post demonstrating washing hands with sanitizers, which went viral all over the globe, and a lot of Western media report the same as well. And the daily press meet have also ensured that fake news circulation has reduced to a large extent. So this press meet, daily press meet by the Chief Minister of Kerala is a kind of staple thing for Kerala right now. Since information is directly coming to the state, again, various social media handles of government is directly interacting with individuals. So there is a very straight or direct communication which is happening with the public and the government, which I would like to call it's a very state-centric communication model, which is again rising up. And the TRP for the Chief Minister's press meet across the 8 Malayalam channels has reached 9.05 rating points by March 27. So not just the police department, the health department, or all other agencies which is working closely with the government is directly interacting with individuals, and they are commenting and they are retweeting, they're replying to the messages. And we can see the district collectors also replying to Facebook posts, commenting to your post. They'll come and this screening, and this is something which is, I think, which is really coming up. And now the question is, what will happen to the post-pandemic digital spaces? Now this rapid changes are happening. Now again, after this lockdown, we'll all maybe go to the normal life. But again, this rapid change, I think this will be there for a while, because we were rethinking about the aesthetics, we were rethinking about the quality of a video, we were rethinking about the physical distances. Now, I think this is a very important question. How will our digital spaces act after the lockdown and after the pandemic days? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that very enlightening talk on the digital aspects. And now, I would just request you to stop your screen sharing, and then we can quickly, yeah, thank you so much. So we can quickly look at wrapping up. But before we wrap up, all those who attended the conference today, you could just reach out to Dr. Kalorth for a certificate, and he will give you a certificate that you attended this conference. He's put his email ID out on the chat box, so please reach out to him for that. Also, now we would like to open it out to some questions to the speakers here. The first one, somebody had just put out on the chat box to Asha ji. My question to you is the health beat in reporting often gets relegated to the next in Indian news channels, and it's basically political in nature. How do you see a change to this concern? Is there a way by which development beats would get more coverage? Asha, can you answer that? Asha, you need to unmute.
Yeah. Yeah. Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. Basically, as everybody's talking, after this crisis is over, our lifestyle is going to change, journalism is going to change, priorities are going to change. I'm hoping and wishing better sense prevails, and we become more aware that we have not been doing things the right way. The focus from political reporting shifts to areas where life is involved, where human beings become very important, and that I'm sure is going to happen. And that is the only way. I think health, science, other aspects are going to become important in the newsrooms.
Just to add to what Asha ji is saying, if you look at our budget, every union budget that's presented, hardly 2 to 3% of the budget is for health. And following this, I'm hoping and thinking that our governments will add more budgets towards health because it seriously showed that we had such a lack of health infrastructure when this pandemic broke out. Yes, anybody else has any questions? Or yes, please, Nallur.
Okay, this is just an observation. I mean, excellent insights by my co-panelists. So when we were talking timelines, there are two timelines. One is the WhatsApp newspaper timeline, and one is the news timeline. And what is happening is a lot of people are sharing old information on WhatsApp, which is adding to the misinformation already there. So that's why what Ashwant was talking about, and Dr. Nitin talking about state-centric communication models, it's important for the government to take control and put out daily information. How do I explain this better? There was a boy in our neighborhood who got lost. People shared his photo saying that he's lost. We found him by the evening. For the next 15 days, people started calling his parents every time he went to school saying, we found him. Because that's how much time it took for the WhatsApp message to die. So same way, what is happening 2 days ago is already old information today because something new has happened.
True.
That is still coming to me on WhatsApp, and I have to write back to people saying, please stop sending this because that's old, something new has come in. And that's where a lot of state governments and central governments are doing daily briefings and taking that into control. One more thing is the need for technology education and journalism, wherein I think going forward, every journalism school has to change the syllabus and have more focus into using mobile technology for shooting videos, editing and uploading straight to newsrooms. Because like our first session, we might not have the luxury of having a photographer anymore. You are the photographer, you are the producer, and you are the news anchor. So we have to look at that as well. That's my observations. Thank you.
Totally agree with you, Mr. Nallur. It's absolutely right. It's 4 years now, and this message keeps getting circulated about some Mr. Sudhir who has kidneys to give. And also, of course, the way we teach has to change, and the way we look at journalism has to change, because anybody with a phone today is a reporter. This concept of citizen journalism that came in, it's on the news before news, as in not in the official news channel, but it's news even before it becomes news in a newspaper or a news channel. If anybody else has any questions or any points to raise. Well, okay, then I would like to thank all our speakers, especially the ones who came from different parts of the country and from other countries like Dubai. And it's also a Sunday, but of course, this is a new normal. There's no longer a Sunday or a Monday anymore. Every day has become a weekday. Every day has become a working day. And hopefully we'd like to have more such interactions, because this really opens our minds to new things that are happening around the world. And also I would like to thank special big shout out to Shajan Kumar, who is the person behind this, putting this whole thing together, and Dr. Nitin Kalort,
thank you.
who was the tech guy behind this, and of course Dr. Rahul Das, who also helped putting all of this together. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night. Stay safe.
Ma'am, I have, excuse me, hello.
Yes, please. Who is this?
Sorry to interrupt. I am just a 20-year-old kid, and I got to get this opportunity by from my professor, and everybody was great. This was very new to me. I'm very blessed to have this session. And my inspiration was from Malavika's ma'am, and she's from Dubai. I replied her privately. And anybody could do a mentor for our students. I'm a UG student of visual communication from Chennai Avicii College of Arts and Science. Really great. I know I've seen a lot of new people. So I've got a lot of new hopes and new informations. Thank you for it. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Vicky, for that. Thank you so much. And once again, I'd like to thank you all. Good night. Stay safe.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good night, ma'am. Good night, sir.
Thank you. Shall I end the meeting now?
Yes, please.
Everybody.
You can end the meeting, Rajan sir.
Yeah.